the meeting to order. And if we can look at the minutes from the July 11th, 2024 meeting.
Move to approve.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion is approved. We will move on to the unfinished business of code review with the IBC chapters 16 through 33 first.
Okay, and who's presenting?
That's me.
That's you. Justin is going to present.
Structural stuff.
Okay. All right, good morning. I'm going to be going through chapters 16 through 23 of the IBC changes, significant changes that is. All right, starting chapter 16, 1601.1 scope, page 433. I recommend keeping the existing amendment for the city of Fargo, which requires a structural engineer to determine engineering requirements of this code. 1608.2 ground snow loads, page 448. So new ground snow loads maps based on the ASE 722 are included in the IBC and are now based on the risk category of the building. The ground snow loads to be used in determining the design roof snow loads for roofs shall be determined in accordance with the reliability target, which is strength-based. Ground snow loads in Chapter 7 ASE 7 or Figure 1608.21. The thermal factor is also changed and is based on the R value of the roof now. So it's gotten complicated to put it in layman terms. Now, instead of having different factors you just put on the snow load in the area, you actually need to know what the R value of the roof is going to be in order to calculate snow load. So that's one thing the city just needs to be aware of, because they're not all going to be the same anymore. It's no longer just 50 PSF ground snow load. It's look at the tables, look at the risk category, and then you have to figure out what the R value is of the roof in order to put all these different factors together. And then also, it's kind of like the wind load change from last one, where it's more strength based. So instead of being a snow load or a combination of dead load plus snow load, it's dead load plus 0.7 snow load. So for example, it may not make a huge difference in the overall strength of the roof or what it needs, but that depends on the factors. So, Fargo's in a 63 PSF ground snow load for a category 2 building. And if we have an R value of 30, ultimately it gets reduced down to 34.6, which is close to a 35 PSF. But that's based on that R value. If you have a higher R value, if it's R40, R50, that snow load requirement is going to go up. So this is going to be a tough thing to follow and to regulate, to be honest. And people are going to need more information to follow this. So just wanted to point that one out.
Justin, is the figuring on that going up with the R value going up, is that it won't melt the snow, that it stays there? Or
Yes, exactly. That's what, we get more snow throughout the year than what stays on roofs, of course, with blowing and melting, things like that. But the thought is the higher R value, and they're seeing this more. That's why I feel like they're seeing some of these older roofs having collapses, because people go re-roof it, add a bunch of R value, that a roof that used to carry 20 or 30 pounds a square foot was fine because everything melted. Well, now it's staying on there and staying longer throughout the whole winter because there's so much R value. So it's almost like the energy code, great and everything, but it's hurting the structures, to be honest, because it's holding up there.
Okay.
Okay, moving on to 1609.5 tornado loads. Design provisions for tornado loads are now required for risk category 3 and 4 buildings in defined areas and shall be in accordance with chapter 32 of ASC 7. For example, schools will have to be designed for tornado loading now, in addition to the typical straight line winds from the past. Now, this isn't going as far as saying it's not the ICC 500, the F5 tornadoes. It just depends on where the area is at. I think I don't recall if it's an F2 or F3 area, but those checks will have to be done on category 3 and 4 buildings now. Some things control, some don't, but just something to be aware of there too. All right, 1610.1 lateral pressures. I recommend keeping the existing amendment, which allows the maximum height for basement walls to be designed for active pressure to be 9 feet instead of 8 feet. 1611 rain loads. The design storm return period for determination of the hydraulic head is now to be based on risk category. Other ponding provisions are updated to be consistent with the AC 7-22. 1612 flood loads. I recommend keeping the existing amendment, which deletes this section because it is addressed in the City of Fargo flood requirements. All right, moving on to chapter 17, special inspections. There's just one change here. They've added a section now, 1705.2.6 for metal building systems, which used to be called pre-engineered metal buildings. So this section's been added. Special inspections of metal building systems shall be performed in accordance with section 1705.2.1 through 0.5 and table 1705.2.6, which I pasted there below. The approved agency shall perform inspections of the erected metal building system to verify compliance with the approved construction documents. All right, that's it for 17. Moving on to chapter 18. 1804.4 site grading. I recommend keeping the existing amendment, which addresses surface drainage and accounting for settlement. 1804.5 grading and fill in flood hazard areas. I recommend keeping the existing amendment, which deletes this section because it is addressed in the City of Fargo flood requirements. 1805.121 flood hazard areas. I recommend keeping the existing amendment, which deletes this one because it's also in the City of Fargo flood requirements. 1807.2.5 guards. This is a new section that's been added, and it's that guards shall be provided at retaining walls in accordance with sections 1807.2.5.1 and 1807.2.5.3. Previously, it was just handrails were addressed in the section, but now guards have been added for clarity on retaining walls. All right, 1809.5, frost protection. I recommend keeping the existing amendment, which adds an exception for Group U occupancy buildings to not require a frost-protected foundation. That's it for chapter 18. Going on to chapter 19. Just one change here, 1901.2.1, structural concrete with GFRP reinforcement. Cast-in-place structural concrete, internally reinforced with glass fiber reinforced polymer reinforcement, should conform to ASTM D7957 and design in accordance with ACI 440.11, shall be permitted where fire resistance ratings are not required and only for structures assigned to seismic category A. So that does fall within our area here. I haven't seen this product yet before. It's pretty specialized, but it is, I have a section there now. Chapter 20, which is aluminum section, there's no significant changes in that one. Chapter 21, 2101.2 design methods. Masonry shall comply with the provisions of TMS 402, 403, and 404, as well as applicable requirements of this chapter. 2103.2.4, mortar for adhered masonry and veneer. Mortar for use with adhered masonry and veneer shall conform to section 13.3 of TMS 402. They're trying to just get more things necessarily out of the IBC and into these other codes that specialize in that certain material is what they're doing here, which makes sense. All right, chapter 22, which is a steel chapter. This chapter had an editorial reorganization of the whole chapter for better flow, usability, and clarification of steel provisions in the building code. So I didn't go through and give you all the changes and where they are. It doesn't really matter. I really still stuck to what actually truly changed that matters with steel design. 2203.1, structural stainless steel. The design, manufacture, and erection of stentic and duplex structural stainless steel shall be in accordance with AISC 370. 2204, cold form steel. The design of cold form steel diaphragm shall be in accordance with additional provisions of in AISI S310 as applicable. 2205, cold form stainless steel. The design of cold form stainless steel members shall be in accordance with ASC 8. 2208 steel deck, the design and construction of cold form, steel floor and roof decks and composite slabs of concrete and steel deck shall be in accordance with SDI SD, that's the Steel Deck Institute. The design of cold form steel diaphragm shall be in accordance with additional provisions of AISI S310 as applicable. 2210 metal building systems, so a new section added regarding metal building systems, just to provide better clarity. It's always been a little bit more of a gray area in the code. They relied a lot upon these suppliers, and now they're trying to regulate it a little more. 2211 industrial boltless steel shelving. The design, testing, and utilization of industrial boltless steel shelving shall be in accordance with MHI, ANSI, MH28.2. 2212 industrial steelwork platforms. The design, testing, and utilization of industrial steelwork platforms shall be in accordance with MHI, NSI, MH28.3. 2213 stairs, ladders, and guarding for steel storage racks and industrial steelwork platforms. Same thing there. Design and installation of those products shall be in accordance with the MHI book as well. All right, last chapter, chapter 23. 2304.10.1, fire protection of connections. Connections used with fire resistance rated members and in fire resistant rated assemblies of type 4A, type 4.5, or 4-C construction shall be protected for the time associated with the fire resistance rating. And last one, 2305.1.2, permanent load duration. For wood shear walls and wood diaphragms designed to resist lateral loads of permanent load duration only, the design unit shear capacity should be taken as the AWC SD PWS nominal unit shear capacities multiplied by 0.2 for use with allowable stress design in section 2306. Any questions? All right, thank you.
Good morning.
Morning.
My name is Bill Yates. I'm a building inspector at the City of Fargo, and I'm going to be presenting chapters 24 through 33 of the 2024 IBC. Starting at chapter 24, human impact loads, page 618, 2406.1. There's some added text to this section. Single panes of glass, laminated glass, and panes and multi-pane glass assemblies was added. It has been clarified that each pane and multi-pane glass assemblies be safety glazed where located in hazardous locations as identified by section 2406.4. 2406.4.3, glazing in windows. Some new text has been added. Exception 3 has a change of wording. 25 feet or more above any grade roof walking surface has changed to 8 feet or more above any grade or walking surface. Chapter 25, no significant changes. 26, 27, no significant changes. 28, no significant changes. Chapter 29, plumbing systems. We recommend keeping our local amendment in this section. The amendment replaces International Plumbing Code with North Dakota State Plumbing Code and International Private Sewage Disposal Code with North Dakota State Plumbing Code. 2902.1.1, page 645. The descriptions for institutional and business classifications are now more specific. Some wording has changed throughout the table for clarity. The table now has minimum fixtures for sleeping units for care recipients and dwelling units for care recipients. The number of required water closets for employee facilities has changed from 1 per 25 males and females to 1 per 60 care recipient units in assisted living and residential board and care facilities and nursing homes. Footnote F now includes indoor swimming pools. 2902.1.2, fixtures in single-user toilet facilities and bathing rooms. Some wording in the section has changed for clarity and some text has been added. The number of fixtures in single-user toilet facilities, single-user bathing rooms, and family or assisted use toilet facilities shall be deducted proportionately from the required gender ratios of table 2902.1. And we're adding a local amendment to 2902.3. The amendment adds an exception to providing toilet facilities. And it's going to be exception 3 for unheated self-storage facilities that are not staffed. 2902.3.6, door locking. This is an exception that has been added that will allow a multiple occupancy bathroom door to be lockable from the inside. And the exception reads, the egress door on multiple occupancy toilets rooms shall be permitted to be lockable from the inside the room where the following criteria are met. The egress door shall be lockable from inside the room only by authorized personnel by the use of a key or other approved means. The egress door shall be readily openable from the toilet room in accordance with section 1010.2. The egress door shall be capable of being unlocked from the outside of the room with a key or an approved means. Chapter 30, elevators and conveyance systems. 30.0.2 or 3001.2. The elevator emergency communication systems, page 652. Wording in the section has changed for clarity. The IBC now requires a system to provide a means to enable authorized personnel to verify the presence of someone in the car and that the person is trapped. Once the entrapment is verified, systems to enable authorized personnel to determine if assistance is needed, communicate when help is on the way, and communicate when help has arrived on site. 3006.3, elevator hoistway door protection. A fifth item describing how to protect the hoistway opening has been added. Item number 5, a smoke protective curtain assembly for hoistway shall be provided at each elevator hoistway door opening in accordance with section 3002.6. Such curtain assembly shall comply with the smoke and draft control requirements of section 716.2.2.1.1 when attested in accordance with UL 1784 without an artificial bottom seal. Such curtain assembly shall be equipped with a control unit listed to UL 864. Such curtain assembly shall comply with section 2.11.6.3 of ASME and A17. Installation and maintenance shall be in accordance with NFPA 105. And then we have 3007.6, fire service access elevator lobby. An exception has been added to this section. Exception 2, a fire service access elevator lobby is not required to be provided on an occupied roof. Chapter 31, special construction. 3103.6, structural requirements. This whole section, tables, subsections have all been added, and the section lists structural requirements and expectations for and exceptions for temporary structures. And now I have 2.5 pages of the structural requirements for special structures or temporary structures. And then we move on to 3111.3.5, PV support structures. This section and subsections have been added. The section lists requirements for elevated or PV support structures. And then we have a couple sections in there. Chapter 32 has no significant changes, and chapter 33 has no significant changes. Are there any questions? All right, thank you.
Good morning. Are you still awake?
We are.
I'm Chris Rose with the Inspections Department. I don't need his book, but I guess I'm going to bring his book to him later, so that's cool. We are done with the IBC, moving on to the existing building code. So I hope you brought your books with you because it's going to be interesting. The title. 101.1. These regulations shall be known as the existing building code of the city of Fargo hereinafter and referred to as this code. The creation of agency is an existing amendment, which is our recommendation to keep, of course. The creation of the agency is the City of Fargo Inspections Department is hereby created, and the official in charge therein shall be known as the code official. The function of the agency shall be the implementation, administration, and enforcement of the provisions of this code. New section 104.2, determination of compliance. They added a lot more criteria to this section. Determination of compliance. The code official shall have the authority to determine compliance of this code, with this code, to render interpretations of the code and to adopt policies and procedures in order to clarify the application of this code's provision. Such interpretations, policies, and procedures shall be in compliance with the intent and purpose of this code, shall not have the effect of waiving requirements specifically provided for this code. 104.2.1 listed compliance. Where this code or reference standard requires equipment, materials, products, or services to be listed and the listing standard is specified, the listing shall be based on the specified standard. Where a listing standard is not specified, the listing shall be based on an approved listing criteria. Listings shall be germane to the provisions requiring the listing. Installation shall be in accordance with the listing and the manufacturer's instructions, and where required to verify compliance. The listing standard and manufacturer's instructions shall be made available to the code official. Technical assistance. To determine compliance with this code, the code official is authorized to require the owner or owner's authorized agent to provide a technical opinion and report. The following section, 104.2.2.1, is a new section. We previously had a local amendment. We no longer need that because now it's in the code where the cost, a technical opinion, and report shall be provided without charge to the jurisdiction. The preparer's qualifications. The technical opinion and report shall be prepared by a qualified engineer, specialist, laboratory, or fire safety specialist organization acceptable to the code official. The code official is authorized to require design submittals to be prepared and bear the stamp of a registered design professional. Content. The technical opinion and report shall analyze the properties of the design, operation, or use of the building or premise and the facilities and I don't even know how to read that. Situated thereon to identify and propose necessary recommendations. Tests. Where there is insufficient evidence of compliance with the provisions of this code, the code official shall have the authority to require tests and evidence compliance. Test methods shall be as specified in this code or by other recognized test standards. In the absence of recognized test standards, the code official shall approve the testing procedures. Such tests shall be performed by a party acceptable to the code official. 104.2.3 Alternative materials, designs and methods of construction and equipment. They struck a lot at the end of this paragraph, so I'll only read the stuff that's still in the code and the new stuff. The provisions of this code are not intended to prevent the installation or any materials to prohibit any design or methods of construction not specifically prescribed by this code, provided that any such alternative is not specifically prohibited by the code and has been approved, which makes sense. Couple exceptions, or an exception, performance-based alternative materials, designs, or methods of construction and equipment complying with the ICC Performance Code. This exception shall not apply to alternative structural materials or alternative structural design. 104.2.3.1 approval authority. An alternative material, design, or method of construction shall be approved where the code official finds the proposed alternative is satisfactory and complies with sections 104.232 through 104.237 as applicable. Application and disposition. Where required, a request to use alternative materials, designs, or methods of construction shall be submitted in writing to the code official for approval. Where the alternative material, design, or method of construction is not approved, the code official shall respond in writing stating the reasons that the alternative was not approved. This actually matches the IBC. Compliance with code intent, an alternative material, design, or method of construction shall comply with the intent of the provisions of this code. They added equivalency criteria, and they got a little bit more specific. An alternative material, design, or method construction shall, for the purpose intended, be not less than the equivalent of the prescribed in this code with respect to all of the following as applicable: quality, strength, effectiveness, durability, safety and other fire safety, and fire safety. 104.235, tests. They struck a lot at the beginning of the paragraph, but added tests conducted to demonstrate equivalency in support of an alternative material, design, or method of construction. Application shall be of the scale that's sufficient to predict performance of the end use configuration. Such tests shall be performed by a party acceptable to the code official. I feel like they made it more clear by kind of condensing it. 104.2351, fire tests. Tests conducted to demonstrate equivalent fire safety in support of an alternative material, design, or method of construction. Application shall be of a scale that is sufficient to predict fire safety performance of the end-use configuration. Tests shall be performed by a party acceptable to the code official. 104.236, reports. This was in here in the last code cycle, but it falls right in between the fire tests and the evaluation reports. So 104.2361, evaluation reports. Evaluation reports shall be issued by an approved agency, and use of the evaluation report shall require approval by the code official for the installation. The alternate material, design, or method of construction and product evaluated shall be within the scope of the code official's recognition of the approved agency. Criteria used for the evaluation shall be identified with the report and where required, provided to the code official. – 104.2362, other reports. Reports not complying with section 104.2361 shall describe criteria, including but not limited to any reference, testing, or analysis used to determine compliance with code intent and justify code equivalent. The report shall be prepared by a qualified engineer, specialist, laboratory, or fire safety specialty or organization acceptable to the code official. The code official is authorized to require design submittals to be prepared by and bear the stamp of a registered design professional. Excuse me. Have I skipped over? Are there any questions yet? All right, thanks. 104.237, peer review. The code official is authorized to require submittal of a peer review report in conjunction with a request to use alternative materials, designs, or methods of construction prepared by a peer reviewer that is approved by the code official. I feel like that paragraph is kind of a big paragraph for existing buildings. Modifications, where there are, the new part is where there are practical difficulties involved in carrying out the provisions of this code, the code official shall have the authority to grant modifications for individual cases. An existing amendment, 104.241 is a flood hazard area amendment, and recommendation is to keep the amendment. A new section on page 16, 104.41, warrant, where the code official has first obtained a proper inspection warrant or other remedy provided by law to secure entry, an owner, the owner's authorized agent, occupant, or person having charge, care, or control of the structure or premise shall not fail or neglect, after a proper request has been made, as herein provided, to permit entry therein by the code official for the purpose of inspection and examination pursuant to this code. It's a new section, but I feel like it complies with the police department's requirements, so it's an appropriate new section. An existing amendment, page 16, liability. This section was added decades ago by the city attorney. The first part, the new part that was added is this code shall not be constructed to relieve from or lessen the responsibility of any person owning, operating, or controlling any building or structure for any damage to persons or property caused by defects, nor shall the code enforcement agency or the city be held as assuming any such liability by reasons of inspection authorized by this code or any permits or certificates issued under this code. And the recommendation would be to keep the existing amendment. Work exempt from permit, another existing amendment to keep that we wouldn't require a permit for re-roofing or window replacement. And that matches the IBC. New section for temporary equipment and systems. So they changed it from structure and added equipment and systems. An existing amendment on page 20 and 21, both have to do with flood. 109.33, lowest floor elevation, and 109.310, flood hazard documentation. Recommendation to keep the amendment. New section, of course I won't read the stuff that's struck. 117.1, when the code official determines any structure is so old, dilapidated, or has become so out of repair and is dangerous, unsafe, insanitary, and otherwise unfit for human habitation or occupancy, the code official can order either of the following. The code official is permitted to authorize the owner or owner's authorized agent to make the structure safe by repairs in order to make the structure safe and sanitary. Where there has been cessation of construction repairs of any structure for a period of more than 2 years, the structure will be ordered demolished and removed. The code official is permitted to order the owner or owner's authorized agent to demolish and remove any such structure. This also goes in line with our dangerous building ordinances. An existing amendment to recommend to keep 2013, terms defined in other codes. Where terms are not defined in this code and are defined in other international codes, such terms shall have the meanings ascribed to them. Those codes are: wherever the term International Plumbing Code and or International Private Sewage Disposal Code is used, it shall mean North Dakota State Plumbing Code. Wherever the term ICC Electrical Code is used, it shall mean the National Electrical Code. Together with the North Dakota State Wiring Standards, whenever the term flood hazard area is used, it shall mean Fargo Floodplain Management Ordinance, together with the Floodproofing Code and the City of Fargo, North Dakota. So a recommendation to keep the amendment. New section, page 29. This section applies to the design and construction of storm shelters for the purpose of providing protection during tornadoes, hurricanes, and other severe windstorms. And the new part is 30311 construction. Storm shelters shall be constructed in accordance with Section 423 of the International Building Code and ICC 500, shall be designated as hurricane shelters, tornado shelters, or combined hurricane and tornado shelters. An exception, storm shelters added to the critical emergency operations facilities for Group E occupancies are not required to comply with travel distances in Section 423.42 or 423.52 of the IBC. About halfway. Y'all still awake? It's a tough gig. New section, page 31, 3066, additions. Where additions containing dwelling or sleeping units, the accessibility requirements shall apply only to the quantity of the dwelling unit or sleeping units in the addition. That was the new part. I'm not gonna read the existing part because some of you may already know that it's there. 30661, accessible means of egress. Not less than one accessible means of egress from the addition shall be provided where required by section 10091 of the IBC. An additional accessible means of egress shall be provided where an additional means of egress is required due to the addition. Where the accessible means of egress serving the addition is within the existing building, the following are required. An accessible route from the addition to the existing building shall be provided. 2, the accessible means of egress in the existing building shall comply with section 30671. 30661, additions for elevators. Where an addition is being constructed exclusively to accommodate the installation of an elevator or elevators to improve accessibility, an accessible means of egress in accordance with section 10091 of the IBC is not required where all of the following conditions are provided. Two-way communication is provided at all elevator landings that are part of the addition in accordance with 1009-8 of the IBC. Each elevator landing is on floor level with access to horizontal exit or a stairway with a width of not less than 36 inches. The elevator does not serve a required accessible floor or occupied roof more than 4 stories above or below the level of exit discharge. New section, page 32. 306.715, adult changing stations. Where additional toilet facilities are being added in occupancies where adult changing stations are required by section 1110.4.1 of the IBC, not fewer than one accessible family or assisted use toilet rooms with adult changing stations shall be provided in accordance with 1110.4 of the IBC. The adult changing station shall be permitted to be located in a family or assisted use toilet room or bathing room required by section 306.712, 306.713, or 306.714. The occupancies affected by this change would be mercantile occupancies or assembly occupancies where there's more than 6 water closets. Existing amendment, recommending keeping it. 4013, it's a flood hazard area, and 40526, also flood hazard. New section, page 37. I'm not going to bore you with the existing stuff. I'll just jump to the new stuff. 5021, at the end of that paragraph, where new occupiable roof is added to a building or structure, the occupiable roof shall comply with the provisions of the IBC. And there is one exception. Infilling of floor openings and non-occupiable appendages such as elevator and exit stairway shafts shall be permitted beyond that permitted by the International Building Code. 50211, risk category assignment. Where the addition of the existing building shall have different occupancies, the risk category of each existing and added occupancy shall be determined in accordance with 1604.51 of the IBC. Where application of that section results in a higher risk category for the existing building compared with the risk category for the existing building before the addition, such a change shall be considered a change of occupancy and shall comply with 506 of this code. Where application of that section results in a higher risk category for the addition compared with the risk category for the addition by itself, the addition of any system in the existing building required to serve the addition shall comply with the requirements of the IBC for new construction or higher risk category. 5021, creation of extension of nonconformity. An addition shall not create or extend any nonconformity in the existing building to which the addition is being made with regard to accessibility, structural strength, supports and attachments for non-structural components, fire safety, means of egress, or capacity of mechanical, plumbing, or electrical systems. There's an exception. Non-conforming supports and attachments for non-structural components, that serve the addition from within the existing building need not be altered to comply with the IBC Section 1613 unless the components are part of the addition's life safety system or are required to serve in addition assigned to the risk category 4. Risk category 4s would include hospitals, fire rescue, power generating stations, hazard H occupancies, or water storage. So when you're doing stuff with those occupancies, you gotta know that code exists. The next several are all recommended to keep the existing amendment for flood hazard areas. 502.2, 502.3, excuse me, I said that backwards, 503.2, 507.3, 701.3, 1103.3, 1201.4, 1301.13, and all of those are flood hazard areas, and recommendation to keep the existing amendment. 1401.2 conformance. The first part of the paragraph was all struck. Buildings to be moved within the jurisdiction shall comply with the provisions of this chapter. Buildings to be moved into this jurisdiction shall comply with the provisions of the international codes for new buildings and shall be certified as to meet compliance with an agency approved by the code official. An existing amendment, another flood hazard area, 1402.3, recommendation to keep. Almost done. New section, fire safety plan. I did talk with Ryan Erickson, and all of this stuff looks like it's the same as what's in the IFC. They just added it to the IBC in case, I imagine there's jurisdictions out there that maybe don't adopt both. 15021, site safety plan. The owner or owner's authorized agent is responsible for the development, implementation, and maintenance of an approved written site safety plan, establishing a fire prevention program at the project site applicable throughout all phases of the construction, repair, alteration, or demolition work. The plan shall be submitted and approved before a building permit is issued. Any changes to the plan shall address the requirements of this chapter and other applicable portions of the fire code. The duties of staff and staff training requirements. The plan shall be submitted for approval in accordance with the IFC. 1502.11, components of the site safety plan. Site safety plan shall include the following as applicable: name and contact information of the site director, documentation of training of the site safety director and fire watch personnel, procedures for reporting emergencies, fire department vehicle access routes, location of fire protection equipment, including portable fire extinguishers, standpipes, fire department connections, and fire hydrants. Smoking and cooking policies, designated areas to be used where approved, and signage locations in accordance with the IFC. Locations and safety considerations for temporary heating equipment, hot work permit plan, plan for control of combustible waste material, locations and methods for storing and use of flammable combustible liquids and other hazardous materials, provisions for site security and required for fire watch, changes that affect this plan. Other site-specific information required by the IFC. 15022, Site Safety Director. The owner shall designate a person to be Site Safety Director. The Site Safety Director shall be responsible for ensuring compliance with the site safety plan. The Site Safety Director shall have the authority to enforce the provisions of this chapter and other provisions as necessary to secure intent of the chapter. Where guard service is required in accordance with the IFC, the Site Safety Director shall be responsible for guard service. 15023, Daily Fire Safety Inspection. The Site Safety Director shall be responsible for completion of a daily fire safety inspection at the project site. Each day, all building and outdoor areas shall be inspected to ensure compliance with the inspection list in this section. The results of each inspection shall be documented and maintained on site until a certificate of occupancy has been issued. Documentation shall be immediately available on site for inspection and review. And the following are what's required. Any contractors entering the site to perform hot work each day have been instructed in the hot work safety requirements of the IFC, and hot work is performed only in areas approved by the site safety director. Temporary heating equipment is maintained away from the combustible material in accordance with the equipment manufacturer's instructions. Combustible debris, rubbish, and waste material is removed from the building in areas where work is not being performed. Temporary wiring does not have any exposed conductors. Flammable liquids and other hazardous materials are stored in locations that have been approved by the site safety director when not involved in work that is being performed. Fire apparatus access roads required by the IFC are maintained clear of obstructions that reduce the width of usable roadway to less than 20 feet. Fire hydrants are clearly visible from access roads and are not obstructed. The location of the fire department connection to standpipe and in-service sprinkler systems are clearly identifiable from the access road, and such connections are not obstructed. Standpipe systems are in service and continuous to the highest floor as specified in section 1509. Portable fire extinguishers are available in locations required by 1507 and for roofing operations in accordance with the IFC. Where fire watch is required, fire watch records complying with the IFC code are up to date. Last but not least, 15021 violations. Failure to properly conduct, document, and maintain documentations required by this section shall constitute an unlawful act in accordance with section 113.1 and shall result in the issuance of a notice of violation to the site safety director in accordance with section 113.2. Upon the third offense, the code official is authorized to stop work in accordance with section 114, and work shall not resume until satisfactory assurance of future compliance have been presented to the approved by the code official. Any questions?
Don't see.
Thank you.
Thank you. Under new business, we have our annual meeting, and that is to elect a chairman and a vice chairman. So what we would need to do is have motions for chairman and then motion for vice chairman. And are there any discussion that folks want to have prior to making motions?
Are you willing to stay as chairman, Clay?
I will, yes.
All right, I'll make a motion to sign the vote Clay for chairman.
Second.
All in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 Motion is approved. For vice chairman, I think that's going to be a new position. I believe Mike was before.
Okay.
I think so. And basically that position is to fill in for me if I'm unavailable. So I would like to volunteer for that position. Looks like you're elected, Justin.
I might be, I could be, you're not going on sabbatical, are you, for a long time, Clay?
No.
Okay. I could be vice chairman.
I'd make that a motion.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion is approved. We've approved myself, Clay Dietrich, as the chairman, and Justin Schoenberg as the vice chairman. Are there any announcements? Seeing none, do we have a motion to adjourn?
So move.
Second?
Second.
All in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 Meeting is adjourned.